Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Ready, Aim, Retire, the show where we help you build your wealth, we help you income plan, and we help you leave some for the people left behind in your legacy plan. So if you going through the show today, if anything catches your fancy and you want to give us a call and you want to come on in and sit down with us personally, give us a call direct. It doesn't cost you anything. I'm all about free, Tony. So give us a call at 630-780-1099. Also, go to our website, apadvisorsgroup.com. On there, you can. There's lots of information. You can see old shows of Tony and I. People generally line up for those, but we keep them on there, so it's for the general public. So
sure.
And without further ado, as everyone that listens knows or watches, I am here with the great man of Minnesota. I think he just won the king of the Minnesota State Fair, if I'm right. But welcome, Tony Shore.
Yeah, it's going to take me a few months.
Did you win the Minnesota State Fair, King?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh sure. Yeah. Okay. I mean, they take a giant slab of butter and carve my head. There's a butter carving station.
They do it
right. I'm there with the State Fair Butter Princess and the Butter King. That's me. You know that.
It's Tony Shore.
I love my dairy. That's for sure. But seriously, been doing great. Did make it to the State Fair.
Okay.
Wild rice burger, cheese curds.
Okay.
The garlic wontons are just to die for.
Is that a new thing in your repertoire?
You know what? I've had it before, but they're just so good. It was probably the best thing I had this year.
Better than the rice burger?
The wild rice burger was great, but I have it every year. The wontons I don't have every year, so maybe it was a little more special. And then they have these Amish donuts that are unbelievable. Like that was the longest line at the fair every day, 2 hours long. People would wait in line 2 hours to get a donut. And you're thinking, what? They're so soft. They melt in your mouth. It's amazing.
Did you wait a 2-hour line to get a donut, Tony?
No, I didn't. I know the building supervisor who works for the State Fair at the building where the donut stand is in front of, and he goes and buys them by the box. So I slip him $27 to get a box of them.
Oh, okay. Connection.
And so he goes right up to the back and gets them and hands them to me. I don't wait in a 2-hour line, no. So at any rate, those donuts, but I didn't stand in the line.
Good.
But they were good. I got it, actually. After I ate one, I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. Because we were criticizing the line, and this guy offered. I'm like, okay, why not? So
what about a Pronto Pup? Did you nail one of those?
I did not this year. I didn't have a Pronto Pup or a corn dog. I was there from 9:30. We walked through the gates.
Were you even at a fair?
We walked through the gates at 9:30 a.m., walked out of the gates at 4:30 p.m. We were there that whole time on our feet, walking around, put over 30,000 steps at the fair.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
One day?
In one day.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
It was, you want to talk about, we went home and I think we were in bed asleep at 7:30 that night.
Wow.
7. Yeah. I mean, we were wiped. But then I have to say, before we get into today's topic, which is the retirement income puzzle, I was in Chicago Monday.
Oh, right. Oh,
yeah.
No.
Oh, yes.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, yes.
I totally forgot.
Lower level got lucked into free tickets to the game. Got invited down. The seats were 19 rows up, lower level, 50-yard line.
Oh, wow. See, I did see a picture of you. I'm like, he looks pretty close, but I didn't know if that was like
behind
when have I taken my picture? I'm way up there.
No, okay. We were close. Behind the Vikings bench, the visitors bench. And man, the Chicago Bears looked unstoppable that first half. Of course, I'm a Vikings fan. The gentleman that invited us is a huge Bears fan, of course.
Okay, good.
So he was really happy and rubbing it in the first half. And then the second half, the fourth quarter was beautiful, a thing of beauty for Vikings fans.
They became the Bears again.
But here's the best story I have. Yeah. This is the punchline of the story. If you've ever been to a game at Soldier Field, they make you walk through that park, and it's thousands of people packed in, just walking together. So, and there were a lot of Vikings fans there. So there's all these Bears fans and Vikings fans, and we're all walking together, going under the tunnels, through the tunnels, and it's really quiet. right under the first one, and everybody's kind of walking the same direction, thousands of people. And Bears fans are quiet because they just lost and they're bummed. Vikings fans are just kind of silently fist bumping each other, not trying to raise problems.
Moving on a ruckus.
But then, and I think it was a group of Bears fans, then somebody starts chanting, "Packers suck, Packers suck." And the entire crowd starts chanting.
You got on the same page. The Bears
somebody's like, okay, what do we do here? And then the whole crowd, everybody's laughing, everybody's chanting. And I mean, we're talking about thousands of people all streaming through, and it just spread. You could hear it.
That's so good.
Isn't it great?
So good. Packers suck. We can both agree on this.
I got the biggest kick out of that. My wife and I were laughing. I mean, we went back to our hotel and we're just still laughing. That was so awesome.
Oh, that's good.
How about your weekend?
Did you stay downtown all weekend? Like, when'd you get in?
No, we just drove down Monday, got in about 2.
Okay.
2 in the afternoon, checked into our hotel, the Hilton Garden Inn, just within walking distance of Soldier Field. Beautiful. On 11th. Down there, it was great. I recommend that hotel. Awesome. Really good experience there. Yeah.
All right. Tony's trying to get some free rooms, but hey, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
He's plugged this on every radio show he's done over the last week.
I know.
But if you're ever in Chicago, the Hilton Garden Inn.
Yeah, exactly.
Pipe up for a discount. Gotcha.
Yeah. Did you watch the game?
I did watch the game.
Did you stay up for the ending?
Oh, I did. I saw the whole thing. Yep.
Good.
Yep. It was tough. I was like your friend. I'm like, the Bears are back, baby, after that first half.
Yeah.
And then it just slowly chisels away. Like McCarthy became a quarterback again in the fourth quarter. He really didn't do much until that point.
Oof, he looked terrible. The Vikings looked so bad that first half.
But he looked good. Like he was throwing strikes.
It's coaching too. They call Kevin O'Connell, KOC is the quarterback whisperer. And that's what they call him.
Like anybody can make Darnold look good.
Yeah, exactly. He's a miracle worker.
However much money Darnold got after leaving the Vikes after
and he's playing
in his whole career,
and he's playing terrible again.
Right. He should, but some of that salary's got to go back to O'Connell. Like that,
you would think so. Yeah, it should.
You got to have that in the contract.
It should. All right,
let's go. So we're going to talk about the retirement income puzzle, Tony, and I guess my tagline would be to people out there. You're coming into retirement. You spent 30 years building this nest egg. So we all do the same thing, right? We're working, money's going to a 401k. We're saving money on the side. Maybe we buy a rental, whatever we happen to be doing. But at one point you get to a stage in life where like, okay, that's great. What does this all mean? And how do I turn that into a steady paycheck that lasts for the rest of my life? Like, how do I make that work? So that's the puzzle. So I got a couple sections we're going to talk about today. The first one is, what are the actual puzzle pieces? So when I'm talking about income, you have this pot of money or maybe a few different pots of money. And, what does that actually mean? So you start with your foundation, which is Social Security. And Tony, for years I spoke on Social Security and maximizing Social Security. And we still do that in the office today. We still do Social Security maximization reports that pick out the best time to elect Social Security. But you need to know the time to take it. What does spousal benefits look like? What do survivor benefits look like when someone's gone? Because it's all fine and dandy to plan together. But geez, what if something happens or something always will happen eventually,
eventually in retirement, that one of you or your spouse will pass. And what happens then?
Yeah. And you look at that longevity risk. Like if you take it early and you live to 100, okay, was that a good decision? Or I passed and my spouse now gets a lower benefit because I took mine early. You got to look at that. But again, you have to be able to get the data, the proper data. You have to be able to run a Social Security maximization report before making a big decision. Because once you make that decision, Tony, that's it. You can do a little back out for a short period of time, giving the money back and things like that. We're not getting into, but we want to make a smart decision. Because Social Security is part of our income foundation. We got it for the rest of our life. It has a cost of living increase on it. It's going to grow as if inflation comes back. Like we look at, when inflation was really high, there was one year where Social Security got an 8.9% bump. Like Like it's, so it keeps up with inflation, which is important. The next one we have to look at, and this is not for everybody out there because not everybody gets one of these anymore, pensions. So we don't see a lot of pensions coming in here anymore. Teachers, definitely. We deal with a lot of teachers and we look at those pensions, but for the most part, they're kind of disappearing. But you have to, if you have a pension, look at a couple things. What's my lump sum option? What's my annuity payment option? So a pension is basically an annuity, right? So if I take the payments, it's an annuity payment, or I have an option to take a lump sum. And sometimes it makes more sense to take the lump sum depending on your financial position, right?
Yeah.
We have to, again, look at the trade-offs, the survivor options. I can't tell you, Tony, how many times people have come into my office that have already elected these pensions and they haven't elected a survivor. So you have a husband and a wife. The husband gets a pension. They take the bigger payment because that's what they want you to do. And the smaller payment where your wife will get half or all of that pension continuing is not checked. So if something happens to him, pension's gone. So definitely something to keep in mind and something that we need to run in-house to make sure we're making, again, the smartest decision.
Yeah, don't accept a buyout of any type of employment contract or benefit or pension without talking to a trusted financial services professional. And
For sure.
as I always say, the pension has gone the way of the pension because they brought back the buffalo. So that's the new one. It's the pension. It's gone the way of the pension because hardly anyone I know, unless you work for the government or some teachers,
And yeah, teachers still get it. Yeah,
have pensions,
but not many private companies. You really. And we've talked about this on the show, but years ago, everyone had a pension and then the 401k came along, right?
Yeah.
If you go back 40, 50 years, the 401k comes along and, it took companies a little bit of time to adapt to that. But for the most part, that's how companies are. Like they don't do pensions anymore. They do 401ks. You also have to look at, when you're looking at the pension, the pension stability and the company risk. Like who's holding this money? When you need them to be there for the next 30 years, who's holding it? Is there risk involved? And you have to analyze those as well. So
Enron.
Looking at pensions, there's
one word, Enron.
Yeah, there's a good one. Right.
Yeah,
they were holding your pension money, and a lot of people got just taken. And you don't advise it. Like I know them too down in Texas, where they got taken to the cleaners because like when Enron went, this big pension number. Oh, it's $1 million or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And it was worth zero. So next up. So we went Social Security, pensions. So those were, I would consider, foundations of retirement income planning. But then we have our investments, Tony. So you look at our investments. How do I pull money from my investments? I could use dividends and interest, right? I could have dividend paying stocks giving me a dividend or interest, based on, whatever I have that invested in. I'll just pull the interest off the top. And you have to look at two approaches to doing that. You have a total return approach and an income only investing approach, meaning total return means I'm going to have my portfolio. I'm going to take a little bit off. So it doesn't have maybe a designated income. It's more for growth or balance or whatever the case, wherever your risk tolerance happens to be. But I'm just going to pull money out every month from that, which is very popular. Works if it's set up properly. Or you can go income only investing, where I'm going to invest in income generating products. Like I said, the dividend paying stocks. We have a buffered income note that pays you, 7% a year currently. That changes every single month, folks. But currently, that's a very good one. A lot of people use to generate income, where you can pull your money off and your principal, stays intact. Safe withdrawal rates. So Tony, I don't know if me and you were doing this long ago, but back in 2012, I was interviewed at the Wall Street Journal, and at the Wall Street Journal, we were going through these safe withdrawal rates, and they asked several questions on, because the withdrawal rate changes depending on your risk profile, how you invest the money. There was a rule forever that 4% was the magic number.
Is what I was going to say. Yeah.
4%'s been the magic number for years, but if you really run it out, and we've done shows on the sequence of returns, it doesn't matter what the withdrawal rate is. If your sequence of returns isn't right, you're in trouble. And that's where having a well-balanced portfolio with different buckets definitely does you wonders, right? So the last one, no, not the last one. I'm going to say the second last one, because I'm going to get into something else, is annuities. So we've talked on annuities on this show.
Sure.
There's immediate annuities, deferred annuities. The pros to a lot of these is the guaranteed lifetime income. That's a big pro. Protection of principal, big pro. The cons, you've got to look on the other side of the coin, is the liquidity and the inflation protection, right? So a lot of times, if we use annuities from an income planning standpoint to help offset the Social Security, the possible pension, and then an annuity, then I have a full foundation of income. So now I have my income. Now I can maybe let my investments grow a little more because now I'm kind of set, or maybe I don't have to pull as much out from there. But again, these are core puzzle pieces. It doesn't mean we use them every time, and they're not to be meant to use every time, depending on the individual. Other sources that you're going to have are real estate rental. If you have a real estate property and you're pulling rental income from that, you might have part-time work. Tony, there's so many clients of mine that retire and even clients that don't need the money, but they need something to do. They need some purpose,
You have to have a purpose, a reason to get up every day, right?
100%, or else you end up waking up. You start waking up at 10 o'clock, or then it's 11 o'clock, and then then you're just doing nothing, and you went from this productive person to kind of shutting everything off. So they get part-time jobs, and the people who like golf, they're generally milling around a golf course. The people that like to get their hands dirty, they're your Home Depot person. People that want to just talk to people, they're at Walmart checking you in, when you walk through, and I got them at florists. I have them all over the place, and they're pretty happy at doing it, and they might volunteer too. That's something else that they would do, but part-time work would bring income in, if you were trying to fill a gap, business income, if you still happen to open a business. So to summarize just the pieces of the puzzle, you got the Social Security, the pensions, investments, annuities, and other sources. I'll name that one, right? So we have all these pieces, and now we have to look at the challenges. So that's all fine and dandy that we have all these pieces, and that's all great, and we've saved this money. But the challenge that people have out there when they're doing this, trying to do this themselves, one, they're on an island, and they're on the internet, they're getting their information, they're looking at news, and that's all great. But when you come into a firm like ours, this is all we do, Tony, all day, every day, is we're income planning, we're managing funds. So I have to think that we're just a little bit better than the Han Solo that's out there just trying to do it on their own. They may be very intelligent, they know their stuff, I get all that, but having the information, having somebody that just does this over and over, and the strategies available to you that aren't available to you out there can be very beneficial. So we have
and about the what mistakes to avoid. If you're doing it on your own, you can make some really costly mistakes. And if you have to stay on top of all the changes, there's so many moving parts when it comes to healthcare costs, inflation, interest rates, taxes, the works, right?
Okay, so what just happened, folks, is Tony just took all of my key challenges because he knows what he's talking about.
Oh, I did. I jumped the shark.
That's how you know Tony knows what he's talking. I have them written down. Tony just rhymed them off. So, which is very good. That's very good. That's why we do this.
Sorry, Rob.
No sorries. Tony's part of the show. But you're right. You have longevity risk, like Tony just said. Yeah, market risk. You missed that one. Okay, with market risk, like markets obviously rise and fall.
Yeah.
Inflation, like you said. So inflation's a big one that nobody paid attention to until 4 years ago.
Right.
It didn't matter. Like when we would build out inflation, they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, things can go up. No one paid attention to it until that point in time. Yeah. Tax risk, like you said, Tony, and that could come in a few varieties. RMDs, all of a sudden people with they don't have a good plan with a purpose, they're building up this tax time bomb that all of a sudden at 73 or 75, they have to start taking this money and they just pay tax on tax. And then what gets affected by that? Your IRMA from Medicare, because you're all of a sudden taking bigger lump sums and you've jumped brackets in the IRMA, and instead of paying the current is 185, all of a sudden you're paying 285, and that affects everything.
Or all the way up to 700. It goes all the way up to $700. Yeah.
Yeah, you can pay and that's one that people don't look at, that people don't pay enough attention to. And like you said, healthcare risk, and in the healthcare risk, when we're talking about financial planning, if everyone knew what their X date was, Tony, my job would be pretty easy, and they could really do it on their own, quite frankly. But the healthcare risk of not knowing, you better have a solid plan that accounts for that. If something happens, now what? And you better have that bucket of money ready and willing and able to be able to help you out and your family out. And that's another one where, you get people they don't realize that you just don't, at the end of the day, pass on. Like usually there's a sickness, there's things leading up that cost a lot of money. Medicare doesn't cover it all. That's why they have Medicare supplements, and there's other costs. We have clients on, cancer drugs that aren't covered, that have to come out of savings, so those are kind of the challenges, and why I would say it's a puzzle. When you're looking at retirement income, it's not just as easy as those core pieces, because now we have those pieces, and now we have to figure out layering these risks that we have inside of it,
Yeah.
Do you want to do the next section, Tony, or do I get to do it?
No. It's your show, Rob. It's your
Tony,
show.
I'm going to tell you, I'm looking at this, and you're just like checking the box one after the other. I'm like, this guy, did I send this to him?
I missed market volatility. Shoot.
Yeah. You'll have to brush up for the next guy. But let's talk about strategies to pull it all together. So we've listed a lot of different items, but here's how we do it here at Advanced Planning. Is we want to create an income foundation. So everybody out there, you want to kind of know what's my number before I figure out what my gap is. So we maximize the Social Security. If you're lucky enough to have the pension, we make sure that is elected in the best possible manner. And that's not always electing the payment, Tony. That could be taking the lump sum. That sometimes is in your better interest, taking the lump sum. And then if you have annuities or you need annuity income, those are your foundations, because all of those are going to pay you for the rest of your life. So now we know this is my number. I may need $6,000 a month, and maybe those items cover, 5 of it. It's never going to cover all of it, but maybe that covers 5 of it. And then we have to fill the gap, right? Then we layer in what I call variable income. And that's portfolio withdrawals, like we talked about, dividends, maybe rental income, things that are variable. If I'm pulling money from my stock market account or my IRA or whatever that looks like, that's variable because things go up and down, right? So you have to have certainly a plan in place to do that efficiently and to make sure you're not watching the 3:00 close, every day, wondering if you can pull money out of your account.
Yeah. You don't want to be in that situation.
No,
and that's why you work with
right.
Yeah, that's why you work with a financial services professional right there.
Yeah, right, because you don't want to be doing that. And if you're watching the market daily when you're retired, you're doing the wrong thing. You're not working with the right firm, because that should have little to do. You should be worried about going on a trip, visiting the grandchildren, visiting your children, exploring life, whatever that looks like for you. Watching the 3:00 close, I have to do it. We do that. That's our job. The other one I would look at putting it all together, Tony, is using tax efficient withdrawal strategies. That could be as simple as Roth IRAs versus IRAs, but being very aware of the taxes and the tax ramifications when you're doing these withdrawals. So when you're looking at solving this puzzle, that's a big piece, because if I'm just paying taxes, I have to withdraw more money to get to my let's say my gap was $1,000. I have to take out more because I'm paying all this extra tax. So we want to use strategies that can limit that if possible. Not always possible, but we need to look at it.
Sure.
And the last one I would say, when we're putting it all together, we use a bucket strategy. We use a strategy where we have short-term capital, the money that's going to come out, say, from your account over the next 24 months. And then we have a medium term for things that just kind of come up and that kind of refill that. And then we have our long-term growth, because if you're retiring, our plan would be, and hopefully your plan is the same, that you're going to be retired 20, 25, 30 years, so you need something growing that's beating inflation, that's going to get you to, all of a sudden I'm 80, all of a sudden I'm 90, whatever that looks like. But you need that bucket to grow, so you have your short term, here's where I'm taking my money from, to fill that variable gap. Then I have my medium term for things that are just going to come up. I need to buy a car. I need to do this. I need to do that. And then, or vacations. We do, as you can imagine, our clients go on these amazing trips that I just get to see pictures of, Tony. Someday I'll go on them, but they do most of their withdrawals are for fun stuff, family stuff, trip stuff. So That's kind of the strategies I would use to put it all together. And other than that, I'll give you a couple takeaways, Tony. You want some takeaways?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. I wrote a couple things down. Like retirement income, first of all, isn't a one size fits all. It's a puzzle. Everyone is unique. When people come in here, Tony, and we have a lot of people referred in, and we speak at the local, we speak at libraries and places like this, and so we have a lot of new people always coming in. Everyone's different. There is no time in the 15 years that I've been sitting here that I've done the same exact strategy and income plan for two different couples. Like that's not working with somebody. That's just like getting a cookie cutter solution that everyone can offer, and everyone's different. Everyone's goals are different, legacy, income, what their plans are. So it's not a one size fits all. The more pieces of the puzzle that I kind of just laid out here that you understand, the easier it is to build what I would call a stress-free retirement paycheck. And again, that comes from any one of those sources I named. It doesn't matter what source that happens to be, but
Sure.
You need the paycheck, because retirement is the exact same thing as working. It's cash flow. So it's where's my money coming from? How consistent is it going to be? Can I count on it? And that's what people want to know. The number one question, or the number one concern that we get is people not wanting to outlive their money. And if you're concerned that you're going to outlive your money, you don't have a plan. It's as simple as that. You don't hate you have a zero plan. If you come in and you're working with somebody and that's still a concern, then we're not doing our job. And I don't have a client out there that would say that to somebody. And I would say I would encourage everybody listening, if you're out there, if you want to review your own puzzle and kind of look at, hey, this is my pieces to my puzzle, Rob or Chris or whoever you happen to be meeting with at our firm, give us a call. Give us a call at 630-780-1099. It costs you nothing, Tony, to come in, look at your puzzle, let us help put the pieces together. If it works, great. We work together. If it doesn't, at least you know what your puzzle looks like and what life is going to look like, and get that information. It's better for you, your spouse, your family, your legacy. The sooner you do things like that, the better off you are. I've never had someone come in my office, Tony, and say, I wish I met you later. Like, it's always like, I wish I met you 10 years earlier. Like all the time, so I would encourage people to do that, or go on our website, Tony. You can go right to apadvisorsgroup.com. Again, you can book an appointment there. You can check out the video. We have lots of videos, like, for educational purposes. There's lots of videos of Tony and I. If you haven't seen enough of us today, oh my goodness, just keep go through those. There's so many good ones. Tony and I always look good. We always aim to please. We have faces for this. We're meant for this. But there's a ton of topics, and I would also tell people out there, make sure you subscribe, because when you subscribe to our YouTube channel, what happens is you actually get a notification, Tony, soon as the new show is up. So we send out emails saying, hey, we got a show on this, and we send it to people, but we have lots of people on here that may not be clients. So you get a notification. It costs you nothing. It's just a matter of subscribing, and then you get the information. If we send out like a short or just a short video on something that's kind of important, happening in the economy, you'll get that first too. So you'll get some information, and I think it's useful for anybody that's in that, 10, 15 years away from retirement or in retirement.
Yeah. Well, a great show today, Rob. And for those that are watching the show on video on YouTube, I want to remind them, if they're looking at me on there, the camera adds 100 pounds. I want to remind them of that.
Okay. Yeah. I knew it added something. I wasn't sure what that number was, but
for me, I'm pretty sure it's the number is 100. All right. Well, Rob, great show today. And the retirement income puzzle can be tough. And if you're sitting there looking at 1,000 pieces, a 1,000-piece puzzle just dumped out of the box spread in front of you, what's the most important piece? The box lid. It's not the last piece. It's not the corner piece. It's the box lid. And the guy who has the box lid is Rob and his team there at Advanced Planning. So you need somebody who can see the big picture and help you with that. Rob, great show once again today. Listeners, viewers, go to apadvisorsgroup.com. And that does it for today's episode of Ready, Aim, Retire with our host, Rob Curvin.
All right, Tony Shore.